What's up, everybody? We here. It's time. We vibrant. I'm here with my buddies. I got Gabe and Kyle, two of my favorite folks. And I know we're going to hear from George any minute now. Haven't seen him pop into the stream yet, but he's got kids. He's got it all. Just moved into a new house. So no big deal if he pops in a little later. We'll just hang out. I've got a lot of fun things to catch everybody up on. But first, welcome everyone to the stream. Our bonus panelist, Kyle, and our main partner in crime, Gabe. What's up, guys?
Yo, what's up, Chance? Great to be here. Man, what a blessing and an honor to be invited to the panel. The community here is so great. Once a week, at least, I get to see somebody coming through my mail order list using the InnerVerse coupon code and sending out all kinds of medicine to my friends now too. So it's awesome to be here. Thanks so much for the invite, man.
It's going to be me putting in an order any second now. I booked a whole bunch of tuning sessions over the weekend, and so I'm going to spend all that on herbs. I'm jonesing for kapow. Like, give me that kapow. Been out for a while. Yeah, we're going to talk about ritual tonight. And it's going to be kind of an impromptu talk, but I knew Kyle would be great for that because he's just a wise guy. Why I wanted you to join us? Well, honestly, I've wanted to have you in the panel as a regular, but we've had you regularly with the herb show, but there's so much other wisdom that I know that you can bring to the table. And when we get George in here and there's music aspects, you guys are both musicians. That'll be fun. And I started the show with a personal favorite ritual of mine, which is tuning my voice with the big G tuning fork. Hope you guys all could get a contact high off that. And I've also got still like afterglow lightning from the Bertaria National Festival. So that's something I'd love to talk about a bit. I even see Chelsea in the chat. What's up, Chelsea? So Chelsea was our best friend. Me and Jen hung out with Chelsea and her crew for pretty much the whole weekend. Somebody I knew from the Telegram chats, but oh my gosh, her vibe in person. She's like 10 excited people packed into a tiny little female. And it was, honestly, there's like a surreal element to hanging out with her where I couldn't really give any of my bit. Like, she knew all my bits because like she listens to the show. She's internalized all the information. She studied and followed up on stuff that we talk about. So I'd start to go into one of my, well-traveled routines of some kind of philosophy or gravy. And she'd be like, oh yeah, I heard you say that with this person. I heard you say that. And I'm like, I got nothing for you. You got it all. So that was just really cool. Chelsea, is really fun to meet you. And there were a lot of other wonderful people at the festival. I do think that more people ought to make it out next year, even if honestly, it might seem like it's all about Owen Benjamin. I personally love Owen. It's okay if you don't like him. Nobody has to like everybody, but the event is not all about him. He did stand up and he did a talk on the last day. And then also at the end of the last day, the large donors to the campgrounds threw tomatoes at his face. He was in the stocks. Anyone that donated over $10,000, which is a very, very generous donation, but they were buying a ton of land for the community to use, got to throw 33 tomatoes at his head. Unbridled tomato throwing, whipping them full force. It was really something. His stand-up was great, and I personally love him. The event, though, is way beyond just him. I hung out with Gardner a lot. Topher actually gave a biochar demonstration showing people how to make it. The proper way to remove, not have oxygen in the equation when you're making this charcoal. And so he also did a talk at the big tent one day. So he had two attractions for Topher gravy. Can't beat that. His talk was all about carbon and pyrolyzed carbon. That's what you call it whenever it's got the oxygen component removed. That was cool because last year he did a talk on phi and 5, and this year he did a talk on 6 and carbon. So I guess next year we'll probably get 7. His talk was great. There were some other excellent talks. Mr. Permy Bear was one I really loved. Adam, he's somebody we're going to get on a stream soon. He's like a highly hilarious, enthusiastic seed and soil guru. He's got a seed company. That would be a fun one to have. Maybe Matt Powers join us for. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. But yeah, even if you don't care for the big bear, it's a community where we come together and you can talk about anything and you don't have to hold back, like the shape of the earth or not wanting to get a cowpoke or whatever, and what's great is because we're also beyond the conspiracy land, we're into the final boss conspiracy, which is everything's going to be okay and nobody can do anything to you if you take full responsibility for your life and become independent of systems. That's the last level of conspiracy, right? Everything's going to be okay. Just take care of yourself and your family. So mostly we're all just talking about, life and gardening and homesteading. And well, I mean, there's plenty of gravy chats, but I do want to encourage people to come out that are interested in finding community. It's in my neck of the woods, which is cool. So you're guaranteed to meet me there. Another thing I wanted to show that I was really stoked about. Awesome. George is trying to get the kids sleeping. No big deal. He'll join in soon. But check this out, guys. Actually, wait. I'm gonna wait and show this when George is here because it has to do with Greek. So never mind. But consider yourself teased. But other things to say about the festival. It was clean. Like nobody drunk, nobody on drugs, nobody littering. The whole the Mr. Permy Bear told me today that the cleanup crew found more items for the lost and found than they found trash, which that's unheard of for a big gathering of people. Unheard of. And the irony of what was going on in Nevada, the hell of Burning Man, while we were creating heaven over here in Missouri, that was not lost on us. We were like,
and also the name of Missouri is what they're going through in Nevada, and you're in paradise in Missouri.
I will not stand for anyone pronouncing it misery. It's totally legendary. It's so amazing out here.
I think calling it misery is dressing it up as a Baphomet to protect it. That's how they we think they might have protected cacao and coffee.
Lily says, and stolen bikes were returned. Never forget. Yeah, Owen has a long-running grudge, or a joke, I should say, about his bike being stolen in 1991 by a certain type of person that is likely to steal bikes. It's an ethnicity. And then somebody that represented that tribe brought him a new BMX bike this weekend. So after all those years, thank you, Boulder Bear, for that. That was amazing. So funny. So many funny things, lots of laughs, lots of love. Met tons of people and met people that I'd seen before for the first time. We missed you out there, Kyle, but I know that you were, doing your responsibility thing, and there's always going to be more events. We're talking about, the community is talking about, how do we do this twice a year, 3 times a year? So the opportunities are going to be multiplying, I'm sure. But we definitely missed you out there, buddy. And you too, man. Gabe.
It was a year ago that we met. It was at the Beartaria Fest, the first one. And I have some great relationships. I met some people for the first time there that I still stay in touch with and talk to very, very frequently. James from Family Fungi and his family. A lot of love for that, all of those people. So exactly. To me, it was all about the community and the people. And a lot of the Owen stuff was just the catalyst to get everybody there, but then everyone's got their own lives to talk about. But yeah, it was a bummer. I had to bail at the last minute, and but I'm not really bummed. I mean, I was bummed because I was intellectualizing it too much, but really in my body. You were talking about this on your program last Sunday about being in touch with the signals from your body, and that's exactly what I was going through. There was something in my body that every time I was packing and getting ready to go make the trip, I was gonna go solo, by the way. And every time I was getting ready to go, there's just something in me. It was just kind of gnawing. And when I would just entertain the thought, what if I just stayed home and took care of some stuff and just stay with my family for this week. Boom. And I don't know the greater picture or why. Maybe there's some angels talking to me, but anyway, I trusted that, and I felt like I followed my my body, and I feel like we
literally
have a
your
better
gut.
relationship. Yeah, we have a better relationship. Whoa, what's up, George?
Oh, guys, I am so sorry about that.
Oh,
Hail, brother.
you're just in time, buddy.
All right.
But Kyle, what you're saying, Kyle was just giving us a nice little demonstration of how listening to your body works and how awesome it is that you can do that and overcome like the old feelings that might have come up in that situation of FOMO, essentially, and know that goodness is wherever you are. And if your body is giving you the cues of like, there, who knows what reason there might be, but oftentimes when you go against the cues, something happens that is not, to your benefit. So you did the right thing. Your family, I'm sure, was glad to have you. It's not like it's easy for a mom to be just her with the baby. And so you did the right thing, man. And we'll definitely catch you at the next one. But George is here. I wanted to show you something, George, now that you're here.
Please do.
So our friend Charlotte also was at the festival. She just super chatted $5. Thank you for that. She says, great to see you there. It was awesome to meet you, her and her family. But she brought me this really cool little Greek Bible.
Whoa.
It's a miniature New Testament. It's just the Gospels, right? But okay, so first of all, I'm going to make myself big so you guys can see it. But check out the front of it. That's Jesus, but the cross is an anchor.
Oh,
Bro.
Yeah,
Whoa.
it's like confirmation of a lot of the stuff we talk about in regards to the holy sailors. This Bible, the date that's in it is 1840, I think.
Dude, that's the Tacitus bloodline seal. It's that's the Cygnus constellation.
Really?
Wow.
And
Yeah,
it's all in ancient Greek.
Yeah, man.
Incredible.
Cygnus is right next to Dolphinus, and often the I'm going to find this guy's research. There's a whole guy who he's really into Ayn Rand. Strangely enough, and his book is Manufacturing Christ, I think.
Ooh.
He's next level. I'm gonna James something. I'm gonna find him and I'll come back. I'll circle back because that logo on that Bible is legit roots stuff, man. That's hardcore. It goes to the Maccabees and some of the original bloodlines of whatever the provenance of biblical history, whatever that means to whoever hears it.
On the back of it, you got Mary and the child, and they're standing on what looks like maybe the bottom of an anchor or a crescent moon. But yeah, it's all in ancient Greek, probably not the alphabet that was being used in Greece at that time in the 1840s. So it'd be a good way to brush up on my ability to read Greek. It's interesting just to see the way they spell the names of the gospel saints,
right.
It's
Pretty cool.
It's James Valiant. That's his name. James Valiant has done a lot of research on what that anchor means specifically in biblical context.
Don't be a FOMO mofo. That's a good one, Lily. That's a good anagram. Yeah. So thank you so much, Charlotte, for that. That's a really cool gift. Super unique. Never could have, there's no other way I could have ever got that. It's awesome.
Wow.
So George, how have you been? Last time we talked to you, you had only just recently moved, I'm pretty sure. So you've been settling in. Your podcast is getting back into gear, and I've checked out some of your recent stuff, enjoyed it a lot. So how's it going over there in Kentucky?
Kentucky is absolutely wonderful. It's better than I could have hoped for, and at the same time, it's what I expected. We moved here on a blind run, so to speak, and it has been giving back to us so much. It's been really wonderful, honestly. We've been very happy with it and keep finding little spots all over the place, hiding behind, some spot that we saw a million times. And then you turn right and there's this whole other area. There's all these wonderful, natural springs and all this other stuff. It's really great.
Rumpole on the Hill, old chap says, in Maori culture, the Southern Cross is an anchor. That's pretty cool. George, I also got to say, it's really lovely to hear the sounds of life. That's your daughter. We can hear it, right?
You're hearing my little guy Dexton. He's
that's your little guy.
I gotta watch him until like maybe 9 on the dot, so he won't be it for long. But he's here. Oh, he's here.
Oh, that's great.
Look at him.
What a cutie!
Look at the camera. It's Daddy. Yeah.
Okay. On the screen. Yeah, see, I love that because it's what we want to model to people. What it looks like: healthy children, happy families, good dad, good mom. That's the most important thing. So good on you, man. We're happy to hear his happy little voice.
That's wonderful, man. It is past bedtime, but it just ain't happened. The reason he's in this room is the only negative thing that has happened so far. And even though it was negative, you can always turn these things around, right? There was this crazy hailstorm that lasted less than 10 minutes. And it was spinning in a way that it was shooting hail straight into our house. It wasn't just falling on us, We were hearing it knocking all over the house. It blasted through windows and it messed up the siding and everything. And then water came in, so we lost the whole floor too, right? So the whole floor of their bedroom is out. They've been sleeping in our bedroom all this time for like the past 2 months. It's been over 2 months now that it hasn't been, repaired. So it's been kind of creeping into our lives in a certain way. I don't think he's sleeping his best. And now he's just wild right now. But it was
feeling the vibe. We're ranting. He's vibrant,
vibe, man. He knew he would be asleep at this time any other night, right? Of course.
What a crazy freak storm. And kind of, I can already see the silver lining in the sense of like, it's your new house. It's kicking you guys into gear and impetus to make improvements that maybe you would have waited a while to do before. And now it's like going to make it exactly how you like it. It's going to be great.
It's true. And the other thing is that there's now suddenly this date of like, as soon as this is settled, everything goes, full gear from this moment, right? I think that's going to be a big part of the timing of it all. But the other thing that may be worth discussing in a vibrant kind of way is that every single person that's grown up here their entire lives has never seen this happen ever over here, not even once. And then it was dark and stormy for 2 weeks straight afterwards. Another thing they said they've never seen before. There's no mosquitoes here, and no one's ever seen that before either. So there's some weird stuff going on with the weather here, and we didn't know because we've never, we didn't live here. But it's not what they showed in the brochure, man. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. It's very indicative of what's going on lately with everyone noticing that, weather's pretty crazy. And it's not climate change.
I'm wondering about the weather situation over the weekend. Like there was major good, true, and beautiful stuff happening in Missouri. Right. Like I don't know that an event like that has ever happened. It might be. Right. People were saying we broke the gravy wall, like the ice wall. So I wonder. I don't know, but I wonder. This is just totally high octane speculation that I've heard bears talking about. But what if the other festivals that had such crazy things happen, where the dark weather wizards were trying to steal the search engine real estate on the words festival to just, cover up anything coming up about a good thing, a beautiful festival. That could just be like kind of an egotistical assumption. And then Gabe, I'm going to let you go, but I had to also remember while I'm talking about the festival, one other thing. I met Andre Mitty of the Ascension of the Chessmen podcast. Great dude. It was really awesome to meet him in person. And he gave me this shirt. I got to show it off.
Oh,
that is sick, man.
Yeah, pretty stoked on that. Really kind gift. So I had to shout out Andre of Ascension of the Chessmen. We'll have to collab with him soon too.
That's a great name, Andre. Strength, manliness, pride, courage, boldness, valor. It's a fucking great name. All synonymous. I see the shirt.
It's basically the word for husband in Greek.
Nice, man. Yeah, all right.
Andres. Right? Is that right, George?
Yeah, that sounds right. Andres.
Yorgo.
Yorgo. Yorgo.
You can be Jorge, you can be George, or the Greek version, Yorgo. My favorite is Yorgo.
And my last name could be Inside or Table, and that's been a nickname for me too. Inside Table. It flows. Colombian and Greek,
That's interesting about the mosquitoes. Like I've been talking about it here, and I happen to know they sprayed last year. They had this, and they called it like City Council Plan EEE, triple E.
Really?
At a time when there was other things on the international stage that were like EEE, and then for me also it's also got, it's a reversed 333, which of course is King Charles III. It's Xi Jinping. It's got a million EEEs on the international stage. So the spraying of the mosquitoes, strangely enough, had a micro macro echo going on. And now I'm talking to my neighbors and I'm like, you guys seeing any mosquitoes? And they're like, I didn't notice, but I'm seeing none at all. And it's like this strange, stark absence of a nuisance. And that just kind of hits a chord for me because I'm really on to Socrates as the gadfly. And so the diminishing of one musical tone from our annual circadian rhythm is maybe amplifying another circadian rhythm that we're hearing. A different gadfly is taking the stage in place of the mosquito, and that is the cicadas. I'm getting beautiful cicada music this year in very magical times. I went to I visited Grandpa's grave, and the cicadas were in perfect harmony. It was so magical. And then sure enough, on the way home, I found a cicada shell. I go to my special magical bridge where I commune, and there's a cicada on my magical spot just sitting there waiting for me, So I've been having a very fun relationship with the replacement of one gadfly for another. I just wanted to observe that's happening here as well.
It was really low mosquito at Barataria. And interestingly, the Triops dinosaur shrimp showed up at Burning Man, which it's been a while since we talked about that. But I just had to mention that. We shared that in the Telegram group. I might pull up a picture. Kyle, what you got?
Well, I just want to first introduce myself to George. Hey, buddy. It's nice to meet you.
Hey, man.
I'm still, I feel like I know you because I listen to a lot of your podcasts and I listen to a lot of your interviews with the crew. So it's nice to finally just chat with you, man. And I've been looking forward to it. So it was a great invitation tonight for me. But I was thinking, as you were mentioning about the cicadas, I'm having the same kind of experience here too in Upper Midwest with the mosquitoes. I used to be in a band called the Cicadas back in the day. And it was just like a singer-songwriter group with like a one floor tom, percussion, tambourine, just like folky stuff. But the thing that I'm noticing, and I know that we're going to get into some like ritualistic aspects in the episode later, so I'm not going to jump the gun too much, but I have a 1.5-year-old son too, so he's a real big ball of fun, just running around and stuff like that.
Really big.
Yeah, really. One of the things that he's into lately is just constantly mimicking sounds, and he does it in a way that's making me realize that I'm also going to mimic these sounds. And so it actually presents background noise that is normally just like in the background of my subconscious, right? And or not of my subconscious, but in the background, and it's like being processed or something. And I'm thinking about other things, but now it brings it to the forefront. And I live in the city, so there's city sounds, there's cars, there's UPS trucks, there's cicadas, there's the sounds of the birds, and he's mimicking every single one. And so now when I also repeat them with him in the same tone, he's doing it in the same tone. So zzz, he'll go zzz. And when we mimic it, now all of a sudden, what was behind that in my consciousness is now at that level where the cicadas were before. And so it almost brings forward other things available to be observed, like the meaning that are in those sounds, the symbolism of the time of the day, or the hustle and the bustle. Why, thinking about the brakes that are being slammed a couple of blocks away or something like that, just putting more and more perspective into a bigger picture just by doing this little thing, which is constantly mimicking all of the sounds. And then when I leave for work in the day, I kind of bring that forward later into my regular work life too. And so when I'm running the blender, I just go along with the blender, because that's what he does too. And it's fun. And so by doing that, I don't know, it's just like you said, tuning your voice before the show. Now I'm also practicing that, tuning my voice. I'm giving my thyroid a little bit of feedback about my outer reality, so it doesn't have to interpret these things through all of the feedback channels of my body, and it just really opens up a lot of pathways for other senses to come forward. And I think it's awesome.
I think that the mimicry aspect is powerful in tuning the voice. I mean, that's how I started the show, was mimicking the sound of this fork. I was doing it the whole 3 minutes during the intro music because my voice was feeling a little wobbly. I put some calamus root in the mouth and chewed on that. That's a tip that I got from Kyle. You gave me a huge bag of that. I'm down
Very
to
cool
little dregs. And it reminds me that at the fest, one of the fun interactions I had with Owen was he was about to go on and give a talk, and the day before he was losing his voice because the goodness was too good. I think it was causing him to get a little jammed up, and so he's a giant man. And I was like, you need a giant tuning fork. Just point this at your throat and try to harmonize your voice with it. He talked about it on his stream yesterday. He's like, I used Chance's giant tuning fork. That sounds extremely homosexual, but it's actually super not. It was super cool.
So you gave him the Dr. Feelgood treatment, just like JFK used to get before he would go on stage, but you did it with the tuning fork instead.
Yeah, no placenta meth.
No placenta meth to the neck.
And no like Pfizer steroid shots to the throat like the current Kennedy probably does.
Totally. And isn't that interesting that we know that those shots went in the neck, and now there's a Kennedy who's going to be the Vox in Rama.
Oh,
I don't think he can't talk though, so I don't think we're going to see that.
It's like we're going to overdose on irony if he gets it. We're just going to be just drenched in irony until we just don't have a sense of irony ever again.
Wow.
We have someone wanted to know, what is placenta meth? This is one of those things everyone needs to know about. So Gabe, can you just
Yep.
So, we're talking about rituals. This is a type of ritual. This was a ritual that was done back in the day, back in the 60s.
It's somewhere. It's not far from me right now. The book, Dr. Feelgood, is the name of the book, about Maxwell Jacobson. Was an experimental doctor from Germany who sold a very experimental form of methamphetamines. It's sorcery. It's based on animal biology, but one of his the grossest of ingredients was placenta. Was included in his form of methamphetamine, which came to be called, like the recipe that we know about is called Pervitin. And that was the prototype of Ritalin, Adderall, all the meth that they gave to all the kids as they're bringing us into the Prussian mind control system. But I just want to...
We don't know, for the record, we don't know if there is or isn't placenta in these modern meths given to kids.
Dude, I'm of the opposite mentality. I think we would be foolish to think they're not.
Yes, I know. I mean, it came out years ago that they were putting aborted fetus parts in Pepsi Cola and a whole host of other products. What goes into the medical waste baggie and is thrown out is actually sold to pharmaceutical companies every time.
Yeah. And I want to, if we're going to talk about it, I want to bring the sacred into the conversation, because what we learn is all this defiled, gross, sensational, hard to forget, kind of traumatizing insight of its use. But there is a sacred place for this, and that's what staring the abyss in the face will get you. You'll be able to penetrate to a level to see that there is such thing as a sacred communion with the placenta, and it's only between mama and baby. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's totally private. And don't even listen to me to tell you what to do with it. But it definitely doesn't go to anybody but mama and baby. And so while we all
or buried on the land that belongs to the family or something, but not to the vultures. Definitely not to the vultures.
definitely not externalization of the self, that's what that leads to.
It is, yeah, like that entire thing is basically the symbolic gesture, the first ritual of someone's life of signing away their existence to the state. It's wild how powerful that is. I'm really interested to see what becomes of the children that are coming up in this community whose placenta was honored as the divine twin and the guardian spiritually and physically that it is. Like Kyle's amazing little guy, Davide.
Yeah, man. Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It really is. And you know what else? I don't know what happened to mine, but I get to rekindle that relationship with mine through the work that I do with him. And that's the beautiful thing about being a parent and just learning all of these practices once again to heal what what I couldn't heal back in time, and what my parents couldn't offer for me either. And it's not like they intentionally tried to sell stuff to the pharmacy, but we just learn and we know better now. So.
We came in pretty early on the placenta lottery. The people in the chat that have a running bet, who can come closest without going over? When are they going to say the P word? Because lately it's been taking an hour and a half, but it always comes out. Always. Yeah, so powerful to stay fully intact from the beginning. Yeah, dude. And then, it's always worth reminding people, this is a bit of a ritual for me, that even though most of us out there did have that, the cut made, the forcible separation, not allow the umbilicus to do its full job and fall off naturally, and the dishonoring and even desecration of that twin, that other part, that holy guardian angel, that doesn't condemn us to any kind of cursed existence. But I personally think that once you can recognize the trauma that was done to that being and know that other you, because it's you, your DNA, it's it's 100% like a twin. It's your full DNA. It's like your Gemini aspect. Yeah. When you recognize that it can be traumatized just like you can as a living being, and that can persist in a spiritual essence after its physical form dies, treat it like now you have you're on track to know what the state of your personal guardian angel is. That entity, that spirit, can be the devil on your shoulder or the angel on your shoulder. And anyway, I think this is maybe more of a ceremony, but you could do it ritualistically. You could do it as a regular honoring, totally. But some kind of acknowledgement, offering, healing that goes out to that being, that it's got your 100% same DNA. Think of it as like your twin that just didn't make it past day one of life. That is super powerful. It affects your life in ways you can't quantify. But in my personal belief and my personal experience is that when I made that connection, when I offered the healing and the acknowledgement to that aspect of self, to the placenta spirit, the guardian angel, my intuition, the voice, on my shoulder, all of that massively improved. Like I actually attribute that as part of why I was able to develop tuning as a practice so effectively. Like that I have help, like that's an aspect of the help. So yeah, 100% happy to be here. So you guys out there that are regulars, I'll repeat exactly what I just said again, but there's new people that need to hear that because it's like one of the most important things that we ever talk about.
Yeah, man. And it's the master cipher. It is absolutely the master cipher. It helps to understand other people better. It helps to understand what the whole biblical thing is all about. It is the PC. Many things PC are filters. Your prefrontal cortex, politically correct, the Pisces, capiche. It becomes a bit of a filter for your lens on things. And then also to reinforce what Chance is saying, it also, strangely enough, has a lot to do with the difference between your sidereal and tropical. You know, there's a between sidereal and tropical, there's like a back drag towards the month before. Like if you were tropical minded and you look to sidereal, it takes you back almost a sign, almost. Well, if you go back one sign, you're landing elementally on 9 months before you were born. So I'm a fire sign, but if I lean into my water in Cancer, where in my sidereal, sure enough, that's when I was conceived, was in a water sign. So I call that the Ganunga gap, the Ganunga gap factor, and it's like a 270-degree circle, like the shape of a C, with a 90-degree wedge missing out of it, and I can roll it around the zodiac, and you can determine when somebody's placenta was conceived. So yeah, all of that really helps my lens to understand the heavens better as well.
Yeah, and Topher's really into the conception or fertilization astrology. Guys, I think it's a good time to start getting into our subject matter. And, you know, however long we stay on it is fine. Tangents are fine. There's no rules. But I'd like to offer some mic time to George to help us with the topic that he actually offered generously whenever I asked him if he wanted to come on tonight. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm looking forward to getting into this with this crew.
Wonderful, man. Wonderful. You know, I want to also extend the acknowledgement, you know, that came my way from Kyle, because I think you're awesome too, my man. And this is great that we get to share the moment now. I'm sure there'll be plenty more where this came from, and I look forward to it very much. I've been scoping your products. I think you're doing some great work. It's really awesome. So I was thinking about the hardest thing for me and what I've done in my recent stuff is that I set myself up to do several episodes that were about, you know, and this is almost in quotes, music, you know, music, the all encompassing idea of it, the idea of what frequency does to us, the idea of how we took it in our generation, particularly in the West, and how different it is from what we know of what it was. And the hardest part for me was to find some kind of ending just to this little mini series. I didn't even know it was a mini series, I guess, until it ended, you know, but I had to find some kind of breaking point, some kind of stopping point for now. And where I ended up was the idea of ritual and how easy it is to trick an entire populace into rituals that, well, first of all, are not good for you. And second of all, are just completely unnatural in so many different ways. And I was thinking about, you know, breakfast, coffee, tobacco, all these kinds of things, right? Weed, and of course, music, and the idea of how music is performed, how it's understood, how it's taught, and how often we take it in. Because one of the things I've always focused on this show so far, at least, is how often we are watching things that really aren't very good for us. I think you're going
to... Your mic got unplugged there, buddy. Sorry. It was felt like I was at a rock show. The feedback. I'll let you sort out that little buddy. This is life, man. We're watching real life. Yeah, I'm gonna have you finish, but what you're saying there about rituals that have been imposed on us, that's super fascinating. How yeah, bass boosted. He's a bass player. Slapped a bass. But how, you know, the Edward Bernaysian thing came into the picture. The ritual of the ritual of exactly what is considered breakfast food now would not have necessarily been considered breakfast food in the past. And or even the idea that you need like three meals a day, things like that. And all right, George, I think you're all good.
Am I back? Dude,
yeah.
My babysitting time's almost up. I'm sorry, everyone. I would normally not have to, but it's just been so weird here with our house arrangement has been a little out of whack. I truly do apologize, and I appreciate you working with me here. So I guess what I was thinking about the most is, okay, Obviously, I am now beginning to really start to see, and I guess I always was, but especially lately, after all these decades of teaching, after all this time thinking about how music works. For example, you said the E was missing with the mosquitoes, right? And I had mentioned how we're used to hearing, or we're used to playing, especially at first on a guitar or even on a piano. If you learn certain kinds of rock music, you learn a power chord, which is a triad missing its third. And if we treat the typical key of C major, which is really just, it's the primordial C of music in general, really, its third is E. And I feel like the E is missing, and we get this soulless sort of not really contextual harmony. And that's a great example. I just wanted to make that point that you had made earlier. It actually makes a lot of sense for E to be missing in a lot of what we do. But what I was getting at before is that movie is now a humongous ritual for us. Television, anything digital, just picking up your phone to do something quickly for a moment just because you can't put it down. All these rituals, we've been tricked into them almost. And they benefit whoever needs us in slave mode all the time greatly. So I was wondering, how is music falling into this? And I was thinking about a story somebody told me, how they were miserable. They were going to commit suicide. They didn't. This was high school. Maybe they weren't taken it seriously, but you have to take that seriously. And they kept listening to the same track over and over again as they were, contemplating doing it. And it wasn't because of the sound of the music. It wasn't because it was metal or punk or classical or reggae. It had nothing to do with any of that stuff. It was the lyrics. It was the words that were in the music, right? And another point that I've been trying to make lately is that it's the way we use equal temperament, how the octave is split perfectly evenly, which would never happen in nature. The way that most music we hear is in 440. I don't think 440, 432 is the final key or answer to anything, but it's usually 440. And we're taking all this stuff in. There's so many covers nowadays. There's so many redos of songs or re-listen or reimaginings of them, that the key of the song, and if I'm going too theory, I'll backtrack. The key of the song, the sound of the notes, the instruments being used are almost completely inconsequential. Everyone is really just checking out the story and the lyrics. And a lot of that leads to, it's okay to be addicted to music. But I've noticed that a lot of older people are into the stuff I was into 30 years ago. And not that that's good or bad, but there is an adolescent mindset that comes with the slave life. And I think that it's very easy for you to stay where you were as a youth if you sit in this ritual of music. If you always listen to the same 10 tracks on the radio on your way to work and on your way back from work, the soundtrack of your life is very, very small, and it never changes. And suddenly you're completely unable to listen to an entire classical symphony, unless, of course, it's a movie soundtrack or anything like that. I remember how often I was told that you grew up in the very best generation of music of all time, like 60s, 70s rock was prominently listened to in my household in the 80s and the 90s. Like, you grew up in the very best time. And then 10 years later, I see that there was all this other crazy music going on at that time that I never heard of, because everyone was stuck on the same 10 rock songs the whole time. It doesn't mean any of that stuff is bad, but it's following rules that are fighting the immutable laws of nature. And we've been tricked into taking them in just as much as movies and television. If you're driving, you can't watch a movie, but you can listen to this, this heavily produced, track by track recorded. It's already void of any soul right there. Somebody's got an agenda behind it. The person who's singing the lyrics didn't write the lyrics. We're just tricked, just like the episode title I had, we're tricked into ritual. And I think that music is very unfortunately a humongous part of it. And where we have to find a way to kind of almost reduce what's there and simplify it. I don't know how else to describe it without taking up more mic time, but things were simpler, and music was used in a certain way to represent something. The ritual of music was used to represent a time of year or a marriage, or you had a drum beat that you walk with yourself to school in Africa. It could be a weed smoking ritual, who knows? But they were used at specific times. They weren't abused and overused constantly over and over again. And again, I think that's a big part of it, because the storytelling aspect that has brought us all in with the 24-hour news cycle and everything is right here in the music too. And it's slapping us in the face constantly. And I don't mean slapping the bass. I mean slapping us right in the face. Yeah, but I think it's a really big factor in what's going on. And nowadays, even a small little 10-second TikTok video's got to have music on it. And there's even subtitles in the language that you're listening to, as if you can't take it in. And then you get focused on the words. So even if music is beautiful, it's being truncated by the words, and they're taking over our mental space to actually imagine what the music is trying to be in the first place.
Right.
I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for a bullshit pay.
Exactly.
So there are thousands, maybe millions of people that are like, he's saving us with the music. He's fighting the deep state. But at the meantime, they're repeating ritualistically the lyrics that start with, I've been selling my soul. How many times have they heard that on repeat? How many times have they sung along to it? It's super dark. Like, hopefully I'm not triggering anybody. But even that song, Richmond, north of Richmond, ritual, rich is in the word. Rich twice is in the word.
Twice, yeah.
And man, rich man and Richmond, north of Richmond, it's brother on brother. Richmond is the 37-degree parallel of Mason-Dixon line, which is the grand central station of my whole territory's map.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you notice how that song doesn't have a hook? It's just one hook. So it just like keeps hooking. So it's like an earworm in that way, because it doesn't have a resolving chorus that like if it's in your head that you can like go to and then depart from. It's constantly, every line is kind of the hook over and over and over again. So that's one of the things that I noticed about this song.
Buddy, you said the earworm. You said the earworm. That's Heidegger. Heidegger has a magical hut in the Black Forest of southern Germany where who knows what was going on there. But that's the same ambiance of that production that they put on with the Tifereth tree fort hiding over his shoulder. Dude, that was so kabbalistically mumbo jumboed out. I can't. I learned a lot. I want to hate on the guy, but on another side, I'm like, dude, I learned a shit ton from decoding what the spell was with all that. I learned a lot. So
the obvious point is that, the chord progression is the Tavistock chord progression. Kyle, what you were saying, the whole song is the hook. That chord progression is the catchy, hooky thing it's the earworm.
Right.
Owen Benjamin has a bit about this where he plays like 4 different pop songs that you would think are different songs, and they're the exact same chord progression as also this Richmond, north of Richmond song. It's like one that's like the Timbaland song or whatever. But you guys would have to look it up. But you would be blown away how much this exact chord progression in the exact, almost the same tempo and everything is repeated ad nauseum in music that they want to become popular, go viral, get stuck in people's head. It's a very specific chord progression. I'm guessing that Jorgo noticed that about this particular song too. I'm sure that didn't get past him.
Yeah, man.
No.
You and I have rapped on this before, Chance. I'll just bring it to the table now. But the closing of ritual, the closing of ritual is so important. It's so beautiful. It's so personal, to each their own on this. But, I could bring a lot of examples of practices that get a lot of animosity and vilified. But on another hand, I admire the fact that, the lesser banishing ritual is a means of cleansing yourself psychically. I admire the fact that some religious people, once a year, they go to their God and say, hey, I might have to lie again next year. Let's let that go and move forward. So each person should maybe incorporate that in their own way. The lesser banishing ritual you can learn a lot from, and also you get associated with your north, south, east, west, and that gives you a reckoning. You get a recrowning. You get reoriented to where you are. You come back to center. And a lot of Christians get their panties in a wad with, when I say banishing ritual, whatever, get over it. Tie your panties in a cord and make it a little string and tie it around your wrist and you'll be safe.
So I want to talk. Oh, go ahead. Someone else got something?
No, well said. I think there is one thing to add to this actually, because and it only by chance that I just do like 6 episodes about this, and it's in my mind. But I was suggesting that the result of something like this is that culture leads to a point where everyone wants to read the last page in the book. They don't even want to deal with the idea of reading a whole book. They don't want that challenge. Everyone's watching a game being played on YouTube. They won't even play the video game anymore. They just want to see the end, And there's something called antecedent and consequent phrasing, which is like an A and a B. And it's like a call and response, let's say, musically speaking, right? And it's all consequent now. There's no antecedent. And that's exactly what you said, Kyle. It's perfect. It's exactly. This song is, it seems like we got to this point. They were ready for this guy. He's perfect. I see the same picture of him every time. I never saw any other picture of him. It's always that one picture. It's a great marketing scheme, It's a great marketing scheme. They nailed it.
There's even rumors that he's the same like Tavistock actor, lifetime actor that played the guy who killed Osama bin Laden. I haven't looked into that, so I'm not saying that I'm claiming that. I just heard someone say that. Maybe people can chase down that lead and find something in it, but there are lifetime actors that will play these roles.
He was recently just in the news. He was recently just reintroduced into the news because this person that claimed to kill Osama bin Laden or pull the trigger that put it or whatever, and being picked up for, I don't know, something by the cops or whatever, but it made the news and it made the headlines over and over again. Not that I search out headlines; they just find a way to find you, I guess. But that's the idea of them, giving you the full story or whatever. So I think that's really interesting that guy just came right back into the public consciousness.
Yeah, so I don't think it's the same guy. I'm looking at it now. Right, just talking out of my ass without looking it up. But there is something to it. Like there is some weird echo happening here between these two characters.
Yes, we could healthily, within the realm of the mundane, acceptable colloquialisms, we can say that we are seeing an echo of the spirit. This is an echo of the spirit of the man who claims to have killed Osama bin Laden, and that's sufficient. That's sufficient at this day and age. After so many generations of theatrical consumption, it is sufficient for there to be a guy who looks like him and maybe has a similar, all the similarities becomes, I'm thinking of it as cross-pollination. You see that guy and then you see this guy, and whether you realize it or not, your pattern recognition on some level is gonna get the message. And I love what you said about how the music is not being like reconciled. How did you say that again, George? Say that again. It's like an unanswered question. There's no call and response.
Maybe Kyle said not resolved, which I would agree. It doesn't really have any. There's nothing to resolve. It's all resolution. It's all consequent. No antecedent.
That's it. This reminds me of how the medical industrial complex works. How they're only able to take things apart and sell them in ultra compartmentalized, hyper secular mentality of separateness, and then it's upon us to make connections. And does that sound right musically? Does that correspond?
I think so. Yeah, it's like they're giving you. It's as if they're selling you the last 4 pages of a book, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, I really enjoyed that. It was really great." You know what I mean?
Yeah, buddy. That's so well put.
Something important about ritual that I wanted to bring up. And it's interesting how this actually applies to, the guy who killed Osama bin Laden allegedly and the Oliver Anthony scammer is how so NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, has this aspect to it called anchoring. And anchoring is where a certain, there's a lot of ways to anchor. A scent and it happens naturally. So there's something that may have been anchored. I couldn't tell you what that something is. Maybe we can sleuth it out. But something that is connecting us with this idea of like a redheaded guy slaying the tyrant or fighting for our freedom. I don't know exactly where the anchor is or why it's there, but it's interesting because So NLP anchors, like in reference to ritual, how you might even use this is, say there's say that you're really in the flow state. You've done what you need to do. Your practices, you're working on your art, your creative thing, where you're having a really good time. You have some kind of ritual that gets you into the flow state, maybe. And that flow state is like you doing your craft, you doing what you love after you get yourself warmed up and you're in it. And then maybe you would come up with a particular gesture or something that you do that's not like, that's abnormal, that wouldn't be something you just did commonly for no other reason. Like maybe you tap the back of your left shoulder with your right hand, just as an example. You can make up anything. And the idea is, if you repeat this anchoring behavior, or maybe you get a certain scent, you could get a strange essential oil roll-on scent that you wouldn't normally smell out in the world from Kyle at Typical New Herbs. And whenever you want to anchor yourself to a certain feeling or a certain state, you uncork that essential oil roll-on, rub it on your wrists, smell it, and you start to make this association with a gesture or with a scent or with something else with the state you want to be in. Maybe it's the state of, I just meditated for 30 minutes and I'm feeling really zen, whatever the case may be. And so you, as ritualistically, start to Pavlovian condition yourself to this anchor with the state you want. And the idea is eventually you'd be able to jumpstart yourself into that state, cut out the normal procedure that you'd need to do to get warmed up and into it through whatever your anchor is. And I think these anchors are being applied all the time by mass media. Like, I think this is one of the major components of MK Ultra as it was extrapolated into the mass public electronic digital media sphere, taken out of the laboratory and one-on-one hallucinogen injections to poor test subjects and applied to the commercial market, if you will. I think this anchoring thing is a big part of it. We see it with certain colors, the neon toxic electric green that is associated with certain stories related to plagues and viruses and whatnot. Ebola, we saw there's a record of that. We can go back and see that. So that, I think that's a good subject to maybe wax on, gentlemen, the anchoring aspect of ritual for both good and ill.
I got a good one. This is something that I learned from one of my teachers who is a Taurus. So Taurians are all about the love of food and the bringing in the love of food into their ritual. And my teacher said that after you eat a meal, sing, because it takes away, it dispels the anger from your liver that otherwise might be congesting the movement of bile. And basically you're just humming to your insides over and over and over again. And so by doing it, you don't have, and I don't have a song. I don't have a song. It's just like a free form, freestyle based off the ingredients, based off the night. Oh, ooh, that pizza was so good. That felt so good to eat. My mouth's a little burned, but it's gonna heal good. Yeah. And you're just expressing your joy, something like that. So there's the antecedent, which is the food. There's the consequent, which is the resolution, the joyful laughter. And then of course, like you go for a walk or something like that too, but really singing or humming after a meal. And for what it's worth, they threw Osama bin Laden off of a boat just like you would throw an anchor. So I'll just leave that there. But if you're looking for one,
whoa. And it stands out because everybody knows that's like the opposite of what they should have been doing. It like
it's
sticks
a
out.
Damn shame.
It sticks out like a sore thumb. That's fascinating. And also, let's not forget what's on the cover of that Bible you had there, Chance, was the anchor.
Oh yeah, we started out with the anchor. There was a cool chat from the Rockfin side from Willow Design that says Hebrews 6:19 mentions hope from God is the anchor of the soul. for God does not lie. That's pretty cool. I dig that.
Yeah, man.
And not to mention the Ankh. Yes, Micmac, always making the connections. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, the Ankh is part of that too. Ankh and anchor. I think there's a connection between those words. I feel good about that.
And even like encore is like, give us more, do it again, come back, let's repeat. Encore, you know, you're asking, you're almost pleading for more.
That is an interesting one.
That's a good one.
Which is kind of, an anchor causes a boat to do a circle. So it's almost like circle back Pizzacchi, who is totally Pisces, circle back Pizzacchi.
Oh, wow. So it becomes a center point. Now that's interesting.
In Italian, the hips are anche. There's your center point. The and, anche.
Now, I may have missed one little thing somewhere. Did you say that this man was the sniper?
No, they just went around. It went around like, you know, Truther Land, that he was the same actor as who was the guy who supposedly shot Osama. So
I surprisingly didn't hear about that. So I'm going to check into that for sure.
Well, they don't look the same, but who knows? People can wear masks. People can have facial surgery.
Right, let's not forget, he had the tree fort behind him, implying a sniper. And also, the white man in the tower is one of the oldest anchors for the black population there is. The Texas shooter. Texas is the fucking power card, y'all. The Texas shooter, all the things about like War of the Worlds, when they had like those long stilt walkers zapping human beings, and it was Mercury Radio putting the broadcast, the biggest hoax of all fucking time. And now go look next in JPL off of Cape Canaveral. What's next to the big missile that shoots the false money into the sky? There's a big water tower, and it used to have JPL written on it, but they change it up all the time. So the white power domination, white superiority, water tower, shooter from above, laser beams from the heaven is the oldest trope ever. And it goes back to way before people even thought about the tarot. That's what's fascinating. People weren't thinking about the tarot back then, but it has the consistency of the tarot. And then we're all under the same boot because we pay amendment number 16, taxes. The American Experiment, TAX. That is where they stir the cup of the Analima. And so, yeah, we're all under the same tower of psychic domineering. But yeah, thinking that he's a sniper.
There's a racial component to it because this is our connection anyway. Mm-hmm. I mentioned this in the chat, but I'll just say it out loud. These red-haired people's champions for the conservative or the right wing that keep cropping up. This new one, Oliver Anthony, this, you know, orange man bad. He's literally an orange man, red hair. His hair is maybe not red, but like he's orange. I think he counts. And then the Osama killer. There's probably more. We're just spitballing here, but think of an anagram for ginger that starts with an N. And think about what were the two racial groups that were most enslaved in the past. And I think that these people's champions are just poking fun at the rah freedom. We're the right. We're the conservative. We're right ritual. They're the right, the right side. And they're, being made fun of that they're heroes that are like fighting for their freedom, are encoding that they're, names for slaves, that they are still just, they're maybe even dumber in some ways than the pro big government left, who is willing and openly knowing what they're getting into, asking for the communism. It might be, what's dumber, to know that you want communism and ask for it, or to think that you're the right side and that you're, mount up patriots, the storm's coming, all this stupid shit.
And I want to take those two demographics, the gingers in the inward, and I'm going to blend them together in the illumination of the fact that I learned so much about how Kabbalistically magic the whole Olive branch spell, whatever that was. You blend those two demographics together and you get ninja. You get ninja. They infiltrated your psyche with that thing, and they ninja'd into your mentality, into your heart, into your tiferet.
A red herring. It's a red herring.
That's what they used to offer the volcano on
Meg,
Vulcanalia. It happened on Vulcanalia. Who said that? I can't see the comment.
Oh, Meg said that it's a red herring. That's
Meg,
so true.
You're a badass. Yes, they used to offer the red herring. That's Lawrence Fishburne is it's all offering to the volcano. Allegedly, Vesuvius, they were throwing fish in there because of the turning of the age to Pisces.
Well, this brings me to the next point. I wanted to.
That's killer, man. That's killer.
Yeah, that did happen around Vulcanalia. That's a huge can of worms.
TAX. TAX. It's the sword of fire turning in all directions. Analima, tower card.
And
that's perfect
is that the
for
pattern that you stir a cauldron in? Am I wrong?
And sword fighting too, yes.
That would
So
be close to the Night of St. Lawrence as well, actually. The Perseid meteor shower, I believe. It might be. I don't know. But it's around there. It's around late August. So.
That's hot fire, brother, because the X of the Analima, it's not in the middle. It's towards the top of the turn. You guys know what it looks like. And it crisscrosses where Perseus is.
St. Lawrence, patron saint of poor people. Huh.
Right. Because the Coptic cross in September is the slave New Year. Is the New Year of the slave. So that
martyred by being roasted alive on a gridiron.
Yeah, I think they joke that his last words were, "I'm done on this side. You could turn me over now."
Oh my God, that's the skyfolding. That's the cranial skyfolding. I love it.
But all this leads me to open up the next avenue of talking about ritual. There are 3 kinds of rituals, coming from the idea that ritual originates in the ritus, or in Latin, the religious ritualis, religious ceremonies, customs, right? So there are 3 in that category. And the first one is mythological reenactment. And I think that's part of what the mass media spell is the mythological reenactment over and over again, especially with movies and TV. What do you guys think?
Yeah, one thing I'm becoming more sensitive to. I should have been more on this when I was younger, because I studied sign language. I'm into ritualistic dance fighting, so you can tell I talk with my hands a lot. I'm in this little box, and I still got to make my hands be seen. So one thing that I'm just picking up on is how actions speak louder than words, and they're speaking to parts of our perception that are more powerful than words. And so part of the Eleusinian mysteries had 3 different forms of communication to the observer, that which is said, that which is shown, and that which is done. And it's a whole nother show to talk about what that means. What is said, what is shown, and what is done is not always the same thing. And there's an alchemy to manipulating that in the audience.
Sorry, but a little cropped up here. But it's funny how you get and there's another element of this that maybe to just throw it in like another little spice to put on top is that growing up you hear the word ritual, and I guess I always was thinking of pentagrams and candles, negativity and stuff, things like that. I rented a book out from in elementary school, and we might have talked about this before, but it was a book about how to summon demons, and it was sitting in my elementary school library, and I don't think it belonged. Well, maybe they belong there, but it was, bathe in garlic for a week first, set up the pentagram. I'm like, Mom, what is all this? And she's like, oh, I don't know what this is, but that's what I thought rituals were. I didn't
check that book out as a kid.
It was just sitting there. It was like demons, and I'm like, oh, sick, and I took it out. I was probably in 2nd grade. Sorry. And so, people think that rituals are this negative, awful thing, and that's where the stigma comes from. And they don't even realize that they partake in rituals constantly every day. So, like you said, what is shown, what is done, what is said, that's
Yeah.
part of it.
The mythological reenactment aspect, and we can maybe get back into the whole like evocation aspect of ritual is, and I think that they tie together actually, because one thought experiment that I like to follow is that the demonic has to do with our deceased ancestors, and the name carries so much power. Topher and I got into this last week pretty deeply. And what beyond the name might be evocative of these type of big, powerful, disincarnate spirits, maybe their archetypal story or path could have something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe whenever the mythological reenactment is done without being attached to a specific version of an archetype, maybe it invokes all of them. I don't know. But think about all of our marvelous demystifier streams we've done, Gabriel, and how you can't, once you see it, you can't unsee it, that all of Hollywood, especially the superhero movies, but really all of Hollywood, there's only one story, or there's 12 stories or something. I think Joseph Campbell might say 12, but there's not that many stories, and they're just repeated over and over again. And is that part of the evocation of something into somebody's life? I think yes. And here's how I think it works. I think that when we go through this ritual reenactment of mythology through the entertainment entrainment in our mind, it is setting us up with subconscious agreements and beliefs regarding certain archetypes that when they show up in our life, they're going to show up resonating with those beliefs and agreements we've made through the ritual reenactment of mythological story. And they don't have to follow the exact pattern of the mythology. It's just really about the archetype element. Think about how many people grew up with a TV on at dinner when they were kids. Friends was on every night at 6 or whatever, Seinfeld. And then they go into the dating world, they go into the adult world, and what do they expect relationships to be like? Short, brief, brutal, repeat, or whatever they took on from those TV shows. I think that there's something to it. I think it can be as simple as like the basic archetypes of mom, dad, wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister, friend, simple archetypes that these reenactments that happen through these entertainments are actually seeding. I mean, music is big. Think of country music, think of rap music, all the genres really. How many people, we talked about this with Al Dog a lot about the charter and rap music, but how many people modeled the way that they treat other people based on music, or what they expect from other people based on music? It's a huge component to all of it.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about what you guys brought up with Thomas, Paranoid American, and the NLP. You throw that in with the musical factor. It's just amazing what is possible, that we just haven't had all the information to look at what might have been going on all along under our nose. Ecstatic states comes to mind. The idea of being like passive in a theater where you should be asleep, and you're almost simulating a dream, and there's something again between what is shown, what is done, and what is said about the psychology of man, that we go into what is a situation you should be asleep and let somebody dream for us. And the idea of ecstatic states is really profound. I don't think I've learned the full potential of what ecstatic states can do. You know what I mean? And we allow other people to facilitate it for us. But a good meditative practice can pull you out of ecstatic states or bring you in if you need to. You become more adept at all of that. But a strange nugget from Gnosticism, the Nagamadis, they tell people that it's all about knowing. Gnostic means knowing, but deep down in the bottom of the barrel of it all, it's actually about ecstatic states. That's what distinguished Gnostics. And I now know this, and I'm paying more attention to what it means to know ecstatic states. And I realize that it's been weaponized against us to profound effect to the extent of that secondary identity. To your Stoic, mark us our alias. Mark us our alias. That other persona that doesn't respond to emotion, that other mask that you wear that is shut down, drone, part of the bourgeoisie Borg, a 6 persona that you have to go to work every day. So I just want to say that we've been put into a state of non-responsiveness to our own detriment, and it creates an ecstaticness that is beautiful to break out of. I'm here to tell you, to be one with yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, it's so funny you say that, because I met a random person at the gym today, and this guy was kind of wanting to pick my brain about like healthy meal prep. And, you know, we got to talking a little bit, and it'd be awesome if he was listening, because I told him what I do. But it was interesting that he mentioned stoicism, and also in the conversation, you know, his main problem that we were discussing was working at an Amazon warehouse and all the horrible elements that come with that, and just sort of, you know, I've just got to keep going, and I'm going to keep doing this until I can get myself out of it. But like, there was stoicism was a part of what allowed him to keep going on as a drone in that machine, even knowing that it wasn't really for him or all the issues with that. And man, there's something deep there. The ecstatic state is such an open state, and maybe those moments of big laughs or those moments of high thrills that come through the entertainment are miniaturized, weaponized ecstatic states in which some programming can slip through. I mean, of course, they call TV programs, and one of the elements of NLP that after learning about it, I just can't help but notice it in television programs, especially, but in movies too, is the layering effect. Layering a story within a story. Think about how every Simpsons episode goes. The episode begins, there's a plot, we're like, okay, this is the problem, here's what we're doing. And then all of a sudden, a minute later, you're in a completely different setting with a completely different story arc, as if we just forgot all about what seemed like was going to be the main story. And then that'll happen again, maybe 1 or 2 more times in the episode. And eventually they'll work their way back through the layers of the story to the resolution. Seinfeld does this, Futurama does this, but all the most popular TV shows really do that powerfully, rather than just kind of one beginning, middle, and end type of story. And how that works in NLP layering is that it's a time release factor. That the external story is the one you'll remember when you walk. I could be getting this mixed up, but the external story you'll remember when you're walking out of the building right then. The second layer story you might remember the next day. The third or fourth layers of the inception are like a time bomb waiting to release at who knows when, but like later on down the road. And the NLP masters have got this down to a science of exactly when, like salespeople use this, exactly when they want you to remember what it is that they layered into your consciousness. They
Right.
can work it in with the proper layering of stories.
Yes.
So that on Tuesday, 2 weeks from now at 5 p.m., you're like, boom, I think I want to buy that thing that guy was selling.
And you just happen to be in the place for it to connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
What a
Now
coincidence.
think of what that could mean with commercials on YouTube. You're in a certain context. They know what you're watching. They know your Enneagram score, and they drop this commercial at this time, right in the middle of this conversation that you were already primed to think about. And then they know your dog's gonna shit in this corner of the yard next Thursday.
Yeah, Jenny, I like Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism too. I hope I didn't come across like I didn't find value in that, but it is, as Gabriel was saying, there is a certain way that is wielded, of just same with mindfulness and meditation. Like, just keep being a good office drone. Here's the tools that will help you cope with it. Yeah.
That brings
we're-
up to me
Yeah.
the whirling dervishes, who are like a top spinning on the threshold between the Stoic religiosity of and then the ecstatic state of moving and swirling and putting themselves into an ecstatic state, with the devotion and fervor and discipline in order to in that Stoic presentation with the ritualistic clothes and everything like that. So I think that's a really great example. So maybe just spin around on your lunch break at the Amazon warehouse until you fall over.
My dogs get really worried if I spin in the same direction too many times. They can't handle it.
Yeah, no offense to Marcus Aurelius fans out there. It's just an observation, and I agree. Stoicism is freaking awesome. It's got me through tons of dark moments in life. So yeah, not dissing the Stoics, but isn't that interesting, Marcus Aurelius, right? And the mask, and it's also MA, which is Ma'at 41. All things about your social identity.
The reason that I named this episode Reinventing the RituaWheel is because I had an epiphany that our rituals, what we do every day, what we do as habits, even though the idea of a ritual might sound like it's something static and the same and unchanging, actually your rituals are always evolving. If you think about this, I mean, maybe for some people they're a little more static than others, but maybe I'm speaking as an Aries and I'm always kind of like, let's do something a little different. But I'm pretty sure this applies to everybody, that the stuff that you do even every day or regularly or weekly, or even things that you have established as a pattern, like this is my ritual. If you pay attention over time, it's not the same from time to time. Like you're going to evolve in it. And I've noticed that, at least in myself, if I'm not intentionally upgrading and updating my ritual with new information, new knowledge, new way, better way, then my habits, my daily habits, if I'm not intentionally seeking to move the dial towards better, more efficient, more healthy, or whatever metric I'm, attempting to improve on, then there tends to be like slippage and degradation of the ritual, rushing it, less effective, less polished, whatever. So when I say reinventing the RituaWheel, I mean, like, as this wheel is turning, our daily habits, our daily practices, it's helpful for us to be aware that there is no stasis. The wheel is always turning, baby. And are you rolling backwards down the hill, or are you putting on the gas so that you can go over the next peak and into a higher vista? That's a part of this as well, that your rituals are not actually static. Even things that you're intending to do the same evolves.
Yes. The idea of integrity. I learned this when I was studying yoga, like coming back to center with integrity. It's such a cool thing to hold in your mind for a prolonged period, to just integrate the concept of integrity bodily into yourself, in becoming better and better at attaining that more efficiently.
George, I muted you, but you can unmute. I just want to let you know, I think maybe your mic was a little unplugged.
What about now?
I'm just hearing, or it's a little hot or something. I was hearing a little buzz off of it. Okay, I'll stop talking. Just a little bit of like, the ungrounded sound, where it's just like, just very subtle. You know what I'm talking about. You're a sound guy. You'll get it.
Any difference?
Yeah, perfect.
Any difference now?
Oh, it's so smooth. Yeah. So good. And now you can just stay unmuted. Baby's gone. Good night, baby. He was fun.
Baby gone. Woo, we did things he's never done before. He took this sage, he like took this sage bushel and just kind of launched it, and there's just sage everywhere now. It's beautiful. It actually smells really nice.
He's doing it. He's developing his own ritual.
He's making his own ritual. And I guess what I was thinking of saying at some point is that's one of the, and I give him a I give them a standing ovation. Whoever they manage to create rituals that do become very stagnant and they feel just fine. And as soon as you mention it to someone, they get very defensive and they're like, well, that's my thing. That's what I do. And it's so easy to not criticize yourself and then you criticize others. And then at the same time, it can be easy to criticize yourself too, but not when it comes to ritual. Rituals we hold very deep. And it's one of those things that we almost think they're private, and they're usually not. You know what I mean? Almost all of them aren't private, especially if you live with somebody, then obviously it's out, but you feel like they're private, but they're not. So when they're challenged or when somebody brings up the fact that, hey, your toothbrush bristles are getting kind of crazy. Is that what you always do with your toothbrush, or you use it for 5 years straight, or you get a new one, whatever it happens to be? I feel like they've created a scenario where the average wage slave does really hold on tight to their rituals because it's all they fucking have at this point in their mind, not realizing that they can actually escape things pretty easily just by a quick twist of the mind. And yes. I think that's one of their biggest successes for sure in our generation, in our culture.
Yes, you totally reminded me of something I forgot to add on, is the idea of capturing and harnessing emotion. Kind of coming back to the Stoicism, it's like they observe it and they let it pass and move through it, but then it's gone, and it does. Where does it just sublimate? Does it evaporate? Well, some people you can, if you're savvy enough, you can capture that for use later. You know what I mean? And then bring it out forward in a safe space for ritual. And I just wanted to say that too, that integrity is beautiful. Emotion is also fuel in your ritual. You should really fucking mean it, or else you're not, or else you're kind of, it kind of loses its value. So the emotion is super, it's like the flavor of the meal.
That's a good point. And based on what I said earlier with the toothbrush, if you're brushing your teeth very tired at the end of the night, you don't care so much, you just don't do a good job. And you don't take the time and you don't have the emotion to do it correctly. So that I totally agree with that. And this is what happens when people listen to music or the same song over and over again, because nobody listens to albums anymore, apparently, because they're not worth it, I guess. But they just they just turn it on because it's their thing and they don't even know what they like about it. And most kids don't even know there is an album or that they have 5 albums or whatever,
My ritual is to brush my teeth in the shower.
Nice.
I think that's a good place to do it.
Yeah.
Because then you're not because why I like that is because you're not in a rush to be done. You know what I mean? Like other times when you're brushing your teeth, you're like, okay, I'm just standing here. I'm just brushing my teeth. All I'm doing is brushing my teeth. Maybe I'll hit the 1 minute or 2 minute mark. Maybe it's just a quick 20-second jam. But in the shower, it's warm. You're in this cozy cocoon of watery healing. That's a good place to brush your teeth. Another cool shower ritual that you can do, since we're on the subject, is if there's you could do this for every chakra, but you can conceive of yourself with the water washing and cleansing each chakra center intentionally, because water has some bit of energetic hygiene effect to it. But when you intend into it and say, I'm not cleaning my external skin, external chest right now. I'm washing and unblocking and unlocking heart chakra, throat chakra, third eye, go up and down the list and take time to intentionally do that. Like the way that, the way that you never forget to get the T-zone, the pits and the crotch, always remembering that. Well, you could add into the list of things that you wash in the shower. I'm cleansing, clearing chakras specifically. I learned that from a book, Shaman, Healer, Sage, and it's a good ritual. That's a good way to do it. Rachel says you can't sing if you're brushing your teeth. Well, it only takes a couple minutes. You can sing before and after that.
Use the toothbrush as a microphone too. And since we're on oral rituals, you guys ever scrape your tongue? That's a really cool one. So I scrape my tongue, and in my Ayurveda days, we learned 7 times, one for each of the dhatus, or one for each of the layers of the body. So that's exactly kind of the same idea, is that like this one's for the outermost surface, this one goes all the way down to the bone, and so on, where you're really intending that with the microcosmic feature of the rest of your body with your tongue. And then glancing at yourself and looking at it.
Very cool. And all the meridians hit a tooth at some point, right? So you can even think about each tooth as its own action.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, what are some rituals that are part of your life that you particularly enjoy, or that maybe you made up on your own?
So so as an herbalist, I love tasting plants everywhere I go. And that's kind
I've seen that.
That's kind of a ritual where basically if anything is in like grabbing area and I know what it is and I can identify it, even if I can't identify it, a lot of times I do, because I'm a bold forager. so I know how to spit things out if they don't taste right, and I know what poison tastes like. So I'm not recommending this for everyone, but this is, I'll say this according to like what Gabriel was saying too. There's times when I'm just walking and I'm just grabbing stuff because this is what I do, right? I just like grab and I taste, and in a way, like on a very mundane level and maybe at a materialistic level, I could describe it as like I am sampling genetic material from the land, and it's inputs, right? If you want to think of it that way, it's inputs from the land, and I'm taking it in, and it's informing me. And but when I add the element of emotion, and I say, "Woo, this one is spicy," or "Thank you so much for offering that juicy elderberry right in my path. That was really nice. Thank you." Just having that emotion come to me, my ritual becomes enlivening, and that's me going through the motions. So that's something that I love doing. And here's a funny thing too. Like, I think somewhere a part of me thinks that there's this elementals. I would call them this group of elementals. You know, there's the earth elementals, there's the fire elementals, the water elementals, and so on in the air. And their job basically is they're like little elves that are just trying to create this facade of the mundane world and what we perceive as reality into an elemental sense. And they're just, you know, like in a Disney movie or something, like little, just hammering away and creating little bits and pieces of the air that we breathe. And there's a part of them, or a group of them, or a sect of each one of them that is really enchanted with interacting with people that is beyond the mundane. And those are the ones that I think play tricks on people and take people's keys and put stuff, you know, mix up the mail so you don't get the parking ticket and things like that, you know? And the way, and I've mentioned this on the show before, but the way that I really like to play with them, and I think they have a great sense of humor, is that by you do things that mess up your ritual, you do things that go against the mundane. So instead of walking my dog like this, I'm going to walk my dog like this. I know, or something like that. You know, my wife's like, "Your shirt's on backwards," and I go, "I know."
For people just listening, he put his glasses on upside down.
Yeah. Little things like this to just get a
ritual silliness
to get a little extra kick. Like the access of my astigmatism or whatever is a little bit off. So things are a little bit like a funhouse mirror when I put my glasses on upside down. When I walk with one foot with my left foot in my right shoe, it feels like I want to go this way, and then I take a step with my other foot that's in the wrong shoe and it goes this way. And somehow in the back of my mind, at least in my imagination, I'm imagining these little elementals just cracking up and saying, "All right, we'll give him his keys back." And there they are. And so to me, it's like a great way of breaking spells of the mundane while being in a state of ritual at the same time. So sampling plants and being with biota, and then also just not taking myself too seriously as I do my motions. And this is in physiognomy of the zodiac. this is an Aquarian thing. Like, how can you tell somebody's an Aries? They usually have like, you know, they look like Chance. They have like a nice looking forehead, nice looking brow. And the Tauruses look strong. And what do the Aries or the Aquarius look like? They look like they're just, where the hell are they going? They're like walking on air. They just like walk around like this way and that way. Which direction am I going? And so that's kind of what I'm like, I'm just going to ride this. I'm just going to put my sail up and see what happens. And my sail's going backwards now. And so to me, my ritual, a lot of it is just being myself and trying to be as silly and not taking myself as serious as possible. And really, that's when the ecstatic nature comes into my life in that way too. So thanks for asking, man.
Justness in the chat said, my dad always said this to me: if life isn't going well, do something crazy like a handstand on the front lawn or something really random. He did this all the time. Makes sense. That's really great.
Yeah. Handstands are the best. I'm a total handstand junkie. And I allow myself to fully believe that I am reversing time. That's part of the ritual for me when I did handstands, was I'm going to gain whatever I put out, whatever excess that I put out, I'm going to reclaim that. And I invert and I breathe and I get comfortable. But yeah, handstands are the bomb. And the key, there's 2 rules to the handstand. For anybody who's new to it, 2 rules. One is don't bend your elbows. And rule number 2 is remember to smile.
You know, I had an unwanted ritual kind of creep its way into my life when I was really young. I kept getting shampoo in my eye every shower, and there's no way I could avoid it. It happened every single time. It might have even been 2 months, might have been 3 months maybe. And then I said it to my dad. I said, "You're thinking about it," and that never happened again. You know,
Wow.
just something changes. It never happened. Not even one more time ever again has it ever happened. You know, but it happened every single time.
That is so cool. That is so cool, man. I love that one. That reminds me of one of the first times I met my biological father. I got the hiccups, and I think I was nervous.
Wow.
And he told me the trick to think of the last time you saw a white horse alone in a field. And I sat there for a minute, and I went off into my imagination, and the hiccups were gone. And then I come back, and I don't know if I've ever seen a white horse alone in a field. And he's like, "Where are your hiccups at?" I was like, "Oh, shoot, you got me."
Exactly. It's all in the mind.
Somebody asked about OCD and being careful with ritual. And that I think that's a great question, don't you think? Like, because it can get out of hand for some people. Because we're pointing out that a lot of people have lost the sacredness of their own self-possessedness is a lot of what ritual really is. And then some people, like she's pointing out, get really caught up. And I think I'm not really sure what to say, but the one thought is that closing the ritual is so crucial. It's so crucial. And that can be any variation of things, but it can be just the holy sacred cross, give thanks to the Lord, whatever you want. I love, my favorite way to close off a ritual or to ground out the unwanted is just a hand to the ground, one palm to the ground, a thought of the mother, and it passes. So if you know somebody who has OCD, that's a really just touching the earth is a super powerful closing of intention.
One thing that comes to mind about, the shadow aspect of ritual, as it was said in the chat, OCD rituals is I think the healthy version of ritual has to do with things you're doing because they make you feel good or because you feel good already. And then the unhealthy version is the fear that something bad will happen if you don't do the ritual, is usually what OCD rituals revolve around. So it's like magic getting reversed. Instead of using the magic to alter your state into a positive direction, it's like, if I don't do this, the negative thing is going to happen. I haven't got a lot of OCD experience in biofield tuning, but the one person who told me about having it in our tuning, we were able to work that out and it went away. And I even heard back months later that it was still not a thing anymore. So I don't know if we have any overarching like blanket statement advice for OCD, but I bet that there's a tincture on Tippecanoe herbs that might help.
Man, I've been thinking about this a lot because we're in the sign of Virgo, and this is kind of like a shadow aspect of Virgo. Is like Virgo's the organizer. It's all about organizing, and that OCD could be obsessed with organizing little things. Let me make sure my computer's completely straight, all these little tiny things, right? And to me, I feel like I really witness the energies of the times of year according to the tropical zodiac when I've been doing this work with the Vibrant and really tuning in. And so lately I've been making remedies for the signs, like I did with the previous one with Leo, and I did one with Virgo too. And I did have a tincture, and it's called Belly Brain Bitters, and it's about it's some herbs that are designed to bring that mental access back into that sacral solar plexus organized area to really work back internally, like as if it the external disorganization is a reflection of what's going on internally. So refocusing those efforts to organize whatever the liver does and all the different organization that happens from the inner layers first, and then it can just start to work its way out without all that stress reflected on the outside level. So lavender's great, wood betony's great. We'll talk about it next week, I think, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time on the Virgo herbs astro herbalism vibrant a week from today. I do think it's appropriate you brought up Virgo, though, as the organizer shadow of Virgo OCD behavior. That totally makes sense. I have been seeing repeatedly in clients since the sun went into Virgo issues at the gut level, issues that revolve on the axis of frustration versus satisfaction, or self-worth versus self-shame, self-guilt. Those are the real things that are going on in the sacral chakra, which is also, very related to your stomach. This is the, I think, big driver of OCD. You would think it might be more of a third eye issue because it's like thought related, but the third eye is the as above to the sacral chakra, so below. If you look at the heart chakra as the central point, they fold it over, they're on top of each other, sacral and third eye. So I think what you're saying is really appropriate. Sort out the gut, possibly sort out the problems in the belief system, the trauma or stuck emotions. Working on, okay, so your ritual you described of singing after a meal is a perfect example of actually something that would be really helpful to incorporate. I think the OCD person maybe ought to just incorporate different rituals besides just the ones where they're afraid something bad will happen if they don't do it. Start working in ritual behaviors meant to invoke the energy of feeling satisfied into the body physically. Gratitude practices are great for that. Singing after your meal is great for that. Putting your awareness and intention, sensing and scanning into your body and trying to, if you have to, even just imagine it until you can feel it, but trying to become aware of and feel the tingly, pleasurable sensation of having a body in different parts of your body, especially in the gut. If you had a daily ritual of summoning and feeling and being aware of the pleasurable, tingly, satisfied in my body energy that you can put your attention on, that is, in my opinion, like taking your medicine against the other side of the shadow side, the frustration, resentment, guilt, shame side. So I think that's actually because it might not be apparent right away, but if you think about it, the belief of, if I don't tap this doorknob 3 times when I go in and out of the door, or something bad will happen, that is actually a shame, or it's more of a guilt thing. Like, it's assuming that everything bad that ever happens is on me. So I need to be better, and I need to do something to make sure that the bad doesn't happen because of me. You see what I mean? I think this is all a second chakra level stuff, which is Virgo. Man. Perfect.
I love the way you say that. Like, it really does put it in perspective, that threat of detriment, that imaginary threat of detriment. It seems to be like what that OCD pattern is. One thought is, did you guys remember that the Utah Jazz? I think there were a couple fellas had really cool free throw rituals. Like, remember the one guy, he would calmly pet his own face gently before shooting a free throw. He was on the Utah Jazz. Don't remember his name, but people asked him, anchor. People asked him. He said that was his child's hand. He was his own child brushing his own cheek, and then he would shoot his free throw. And then there's another guy from the Jazz. He had a phrase he would say, and you could see he would say the phrase before every shot. And we used to joke around, and we would ad lib his words. So every time he would say his phrase, we were in the audience saying, "I'm looking for a girl with a gun and a job," because we were trying to read his lips. But yeah, something like kind of like what Kyle was saying about, like, do something out of logic, leave logic for a minute, break it, break away from logic, disattach from your self-importance. You know, the OCD thing is just a really powerful superstition. It's just super powerful superstition. And I'm going to share a story about what it's hyper deliberation is another way to describe what OCD becomes. But I have a story from this morning because I was in a little conversation over in the Juan's Telly last night, and I went to sleep with some thoughts, and then I woke up with a more developed thought. And when I got NLP'd. I NLP'd myself. I
George's book, by the way, A Dictionary of Superstitions.
Yeah, you figured I'd flash it since you just mentioned that.
Bring it up. Let me see it.
Yeah.
Let's see the cover.
Cool, man.
Yeah. Wow. Is that
it looks
Cersei?
Like a Virgo figure.
Right?
Is it Cersei? No. I know that face. Who is that? She's beautiful. She's got, that's such a good cover, man.
Virgo and figure.
A lot going on, definitely. I mean, it's Oxford, but still, it is pretty cool. There's definitely some interesting stuff in here for sure.
Nice. So yeah. So yeah, this morning I'm thinking about this idea. I got on Juan's Telly, and somebody had asked me a question that I had already processed the answer to. It was crazy psychic, and it was really weird, but it had to do with when people take an oath to testify for testimony. What does it mean? What was the origin of it? That was kind of the question. And my answer was that when they seed a person's expectation with the right way to do something, it becomes they're achieving the placebo effect minimum standard. If they could tell you, okay, put your hand on this book and repeat after me, and you put your right hand on there, and they're like, no, you're doing that wrong. It's the other hand. You all got to do the other hand. And so, sorry. Okay. So you put your left hand on instead. Okay. Now you're doing it. Now you're not doing it wrong. That implies that there's a right way for it to work. That opens up the exception of the offer for you to say, oh, there's a right way for this to go. And so that's kind of what OCD is like a whole life of like, there's only one way to spell this word. There's only one way to say these words, and that the B in climb is silent, and you can't ever pronounce the B. And you know what I mean? They get caught in the rights, and that is the trap of ritual. It's that 90-degree angle, that uprightness. And so I think that being goofy and giving yourself permission to self-mock and not deliberate so much is all part of kind of what we're playing with here. But I hope that helps maybe with anybody who is in that kind of imaginary detriment that OCD is, very superstitious.
Sometimes it only takes a laugh to get out of a funk. It could take months, but it's one, and then what you're like, why do I keep doing this? Right. So it could be as simple as that. Some inversion of the feeling. Yeah, it makes sense, man. And it has to be silly. Sometimes it just has to be silly. It was perfect what you said, Kyle, about flipping the glasses. It just has to be ridiculous in a great way. It can change everything.
Luda, the silly love.
I stack my day with silliness from the beginning. I'll tell you just a quick thing, and I have a question for you, Jorge,
Sure.
or George. I'm sorry.
Whatever comes out first, man. They're both accurate. No problem.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, I have a little 1.5-year-old. He wakes up in the morning. I have pajamas that are a rooster, so he goes goo 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 goo. Like I wake up with a rooster crawl, and it's my son. And then we go dance, and we listen to classical music primarily. Like that's it. And so Vivaldi, some of the Italian masters and stuff like that. And with this type of music, it's like I just mimic him because I just watch him do his thing, and he's got a very good range of motion, and I think that because he's closest to God, like he's probably got a really good way of understanding dance, where I'm all I'm trying to I shouldn't dance like that, it's gonna look silly. But if I keep doing it over and over and over every day for the last 1.5 years, then it trains me to be like, it's okay, I'm going to be like this, I'm going to be silly. And it's really fun. And I start the day with some music. I share this great moment. That's just me and him. We're dancing to, I get to be the DJ. Sometimes we play the Vivaldi and whatnot. But anyway, I'm wondering if you have any rituals that are musically inclined that you share with your kids that bring out the best in you, or vice versa,
Yeah, I mean, it's a strangely loaded question, because I was said once, oh wow, your hobby is your job, that's great. I'm just like, this shit ain't my hobby, man. I don't go home and then plug in right away and I'm like, yes, I can't wait to play instrument, because I'm usually teaching for many hours back in the day, especially. So there is this very interesting relationship that I have with the music, but of course my kids are already great singers, they're great dancers, and we do use a different range of music. And similar, I definitely do some Baroque stuff, because it really has just every 16th note is covered, and you can see where they fit in that, because they're stressed and unstressed beats, and they both kind of move in a different spot. They find one of them goes on this part, one of them does this part, where they stress their movements, where their feet land and where their arms move. So I like to see what they do in response to certain styles, especially something along the lines of Vivaldi, because that whole Baroque era is every man, woman, and child for themselves when you're playing, because they're lines that they're interwoven, they're unrelated, but they're totally related. And it's great. It's great brain candy, But then sometimes I put on something a little more on the Romantic era, where there's a lot of action in the melodic and harmonic context, and maybe the rhythm isn't as sturdy, where and anyone listening, believe me, I know that this is not accurate, but I would say if there was a style of classical that gets rid of a conductor and successfully keeps pumping, it would be Baroque, because it's just this train that won't stop. But with the Romantic stuff, there's this ebb and flow, as a push and pull. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. It's that. So I like to see what they do in that case, kind of like an egg rolling down a hill instead of a ball. I like to see how they respond to this not pulsed, metered thing, because a lot of times you put on rock music, any kid's tune, they're immediately on it. The backbeat's there, 1 and 2 and 4, and they're gonna find something right away. They might even clap where it belongs. But with the weirder, less prescribed things, it's great to see what they do with that, right? And I wasn't even thinking about it, but it often does come right after food, right after breakfast. It's usually when the music is on, as opposed to any other activity that might happen, and also before bath time, because I'm trying to maybe taper them off and see, we skipped our bath tonight, so I think that was the reason he was up, right? We skipped the ritual, and pre-bath So they do a ton of energy. Any final sweat glands that want to do something get to do it. And then we get to the bath. And then we end up singing in the bath too. So like he's singing Baba Black Sheep like crazy. He can't stop. It's great. So we got him like 5 black sheep, to play with. And she'll sing a number of different tunes and some call and response tunes, also kind of, child songs, but they take a lot of intuitive nature, and it allows us to introduce different objects into it, where, certain songs you can fill in the blank on a certain word, and we get to talk about whatever it is, a pencil, a pen, a color. And the ritual ends up being, how much can we vary a typical kid's song, so that way it's not just the one they hear over and over again. How can we add things in and you can still sing the same melody and just change the words, So I think that's some of the things that we have the most fun with, for sure. And I definitely put on, not because I'm listening to it all the time, but I have a very extensive history of metal and all kinds of metal, some of it pretty extreme. And I like to put that on too, because there is a pulse, but there's this like white noise level of extreme texture. It just kind of hits you with high amplitude all the time. And I like to see how they react to that too, because they don't react violently. They really enjoy it and they kind of smile and they're having a fun time with it, because they don't get this like scolding, yelling, awful feelings in the house. So when the guy's yelling on the song, I think it's just fun for them. They're like, what is that? How do you even do that? And they yell, they're kids, they're yelling, but it's nice to see how they react to all these different styles, like jazz, funk, metal, and random classical from the past like 500 years. That's pretty much where the music goes. And yeah, fitting in different words with different songs. That's kind of the rituals we experience post food. Just like you said, I didn't even think of it. It's post food for sure. They're ready to dance. They're definitely ready to dance and run in circles. And then right before bath time, they kind of sense that bath time's coming if there's a song on. Certain songs, a lot of African stuff, South American stuff has great grooves to dance to. That's pretty much where it sits. Definitely. And then every so often I whip out the instrument. I'll plug in a bass. I'll turn the amp up fairly loud and I'll give them like a really steady thing, and they're just loving it, And they're also both playing ukulele pretty well too, which is very exciting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they're talking in the chat about singing and praying.
Twice.
He who sings prays twice. I like that a lot.
That's cool. That's cool.
I think any intention setting or prayer doing that you might be up to, there's the part where it's just the repetition of words, and then there's the part where you feel it in your body and in your emotions. And singing it is a way, way more likely avenue towards feeling it 100%. I love to sing the like setting of intentions when I'm setting up the room before attuning. Sometimes I just speak it out loud as I'm clearing the corners and clearing the space and burning the smudge and doing all that. But the times where I sing it out loud, I feel it more, not to be all OCD about it. Your rituals are going to hit different from time to time, and you have to just be cool with that and roll with that. The key is the consistency, and one aspect of ritual that is good to help or to elucidate on is rituals that are for our own benefit or for our health, going to the gym, for our mind, writing in a journal, things like that. Consistency is where the juice is, or especially with creative practices. Say, you have some kind of art that you enjoy, but maybe it's hard to find time for. Setting yourself up with small doses of it rather than imagining that you need to do a whole lot all at once, setting the bar low in your mind about what would be a success. Instead of telling yourself, got to go to the gym for 2 hours, just say, I win if I show up at the gym. You'll be more likely to show up. When we put a lot of pressure on ourselves with the idea of some big, elaborate, super ritual, a lot of times that actually stops us from ever starting. And it's better to do small and consistent and regular than it is to do occasional and over dramatically, excessive. you like 2-hour session of writing your novel or writing it for 8 hours one day, but then you don't work on it again for 6 months versus 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. it's going to flow better with the latter, especially because what we do every day, in a major sense, is who we are choosing to be. What you do every day is who you are. It just is. That's just what it is. That's the identity that's the character you're playing. So even in small doses, that still applies. Not to beat yourself up if you don't do the thing every day, but in those regular, even small doses, you are priming your unconscious to continue the conversation the rest of the day until the next time you sit down at the canvas or the drawing pad. And what stops creativity more than anything is the indecisiveness. I don't know what to do. But the priming of your subconscious and your imagination through opening that gate daily, even if just for a minute, is what allows ideas to start to bubble up throughout the day and give you that inspiration when you are sitting down at the canvas. And when you give it a bite-sized chunk instead of it has to be a whole lot or nothing, you probably will do more than that little chunk. But it's just about setting the bar low so that even showing up, it feels like a victory mentally that you can celebrate, rather than being trapped in the cycle of not showing up and beating yourself up because the bar was too high. You couldn't carve out the time that you thought it had to be for it to be a success. So guys, you want to move our way towards a bit of a wrap up here? We're about 2 hours in. It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I missed one or two words here and there, but I had a great friend. And I apologize. I really am very sorry, guys. It felt relatively unprofessional, but that's it. I had no choice, and I wasn't missing this.
Well, he gave me the heads up, for the record. He gave me the heads up that
the
child would be in the room, and I was like, "Bring it! Let's have the sounds of life and happiness." I'm good with it.
Maybe I have a closing thought, since you just mentioned what you said, and we've been talking about singing, and every single instrument that has been created by our hands is limited in certain respects, whether it's range or the ability to play one note at once or whatever it is. All of these things can be broken with extended techniques, but for the most part, every instrument has some serious restrictions compared to other ones. The only one that's unrestricted is the human voice. And a big part of what happens, and this is not even mentioning that you hear it differently than someone who's standing next to you, of course, because you're resonating in your own skull. Your inner ear hears too, and you're audiating what you want to hear, and then you sing. So you're getting a mixed thing when you're doing it, but your entire skeletal system is resonating on top of all the other things that are going on, vocal cords and everything else. So when you sing, nothing could possibly be more impactful. I hope it's out of tune. I hope it's out of time. I want it to be as natural, and that's perfection to me, So as the title of one of my episodes in the past, you are the ultimate instrument. And I think that's just awesome. I saw somebody asked about binaural beats earlier, and I wasn't able to mention anything, but I think they're very healthy. I think they're very great. And it said good or bad, they're wonderful. They're a wonderful way to achieve extremely low frequencies, but it proves it's very easy to hide these things also. So I'm sure it can be used nefariously, but overall, I think they're pretty awesome.
I like to do a tuning fork in each ear, strike two and hold them up to both sides of my head. That's kind of like a binaural beat, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You get the different, whatever the difference is, that's the frequency you're actually hearing.
I really enjoy the differential between most of the solfeggio combinations, but I think the most pleasant combination on solfeggio is the 5-8 and the 4-1-7. Which is a 111 difference. Although that's part of the magic of solfeggio in general, though, is the differential between any two of the set is always something mystical, like a 1-1-1.
Wow.
Chance, say that again. Did you say that again? What are the two frequencies?
5-8 and 4-1-7.
Well, that's the heptad of the Enneagram, and it has a 1-1-1 differential?
Yeah. 5-8 minus 4-1-7 is 1-1-1.
Oh, my God.
This episode ain't over.
I I might be able to play that right now.
All
Let me
right.
see if I can do it. I have them on my soundboard.
Oh yeah, nice.
Just
Wow.
thumbs up if you can hear it. Hold on, I gotta switch mics.
That's amazing. That's so wild. That really hits with the Enneagram. I mean, that's like
Holy crap, man.
he just extracted the 111, which is like all of that's the Hermes Trismegistus, essentially, in my mind. It's like Hermes, Thoth, and Quetzalcoatl. That's what the 111 is. And that's fascinating that it jumps out of the heptad when you play the difference. Is that going to have something to do with the Devil's Tone, George, or the?
I don't think it would relate to it discreetly, but what can be thought of in that regard is that happens to be the exact halfway point of the 12-tone system that we use now. So it does create a two hemisphere thing. And that concept, I guess, two hemispheres of the binaural thing, maybe, but it's not directly related numerically. And the tritone, I think, actually is 0.666. I can potentially get it before we're done here.
Wow, man, it's so wild how much we all bring together. You know what I mean? Because
right.
I am not musical, so I totally need you, George, to answer these questions for me. It's so beautiful that we can come together with our minds.
I can't get enough of it. I really cannot. It's like the best thing that we get to do this. It's really wonderful.
It is. I'll share a quick story, a little personal Gabe realization.
I'm back. It did not like me switching that setting.
Oh, shush.
I think I'm good now, though.
No echo? Are we good?
I do hear an echo.
Oh, no, an echo.
I think it might be you.
Oh, shit.
You got to put on that echo calcification.
Yo.
Oh.
Fresh El Camino, welcome Kilo G. Motherfucker come up talking to me. I'll be like,
should be good now, right?
Yeah, it's fixed.
That's why you don't try to do things you haven't tested on the fly. Yeah.
You mean like untested drugs?
But I have a cool soundboard. Maybe, okay, if you guys are all muted, maybe it won't echo. I'm probably wrong about that.
No echo.
Just hold on, switching it. Is echoing? No echo? Okay. So tell me if you can hear, thumbs up if you can hear this. That's a 396. Okay. Is it too loud? No? Okay, cool. I stopped it. I should let it ring out. But I'm going to play the 417 and the 528 together. That differential I was talking about. So start with the 417.
Wow. Popping portals.
Okay, there. Yeah, I should do that more often. Okay,
Yeah,
you should be able to unmute. I switched myself back.
Dude, I got goosebumps on my face.
Interesting.
It's like listening to it, and it's just, my face just got all goosebumpy. It's really weird.
Yeah, it hit me in the back of the neck.
I told you that combination's gnarly. It's really good.
It's cool, man. It's like a pure major third between A and C sharp, like really, really close to that. If anyone has an instrument that can replicate,
Meta
really
just
similar.
literally said that right before, right the same
nice.
second as you.
Of course he did, man. That man knows what's up.
That's great. My cat is immediately alerted and now rubbing up against me, says Brianna.
So,
I've had those. I've had my soundboard keyed up to have solfeggio tuning forks that I recorded forever, but I just never use it. Should do that more often.
I gotta point out AC. That's a electrical current type. That's a certain dark wizard that got chased out of the America States with the Espionage Act.
Right.
The AC that praise the air conditioner. Thank God it's not hot in here. You know.
Okay, the people in the chat are asking for more.
Yeah, I'll do it again. Yeah.
Okay, I have to mute you, gentlemen. I'm gonna do another combination that I really like.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm getting nothing, Chance.
Oh, still nothing. Okay.
You were muted. You were muted.
Oh, okay. If I'm muted, it won't work. Okay, understand. All right, here we go. Okay. So that was a 639 and then a 963 with a little 852 on top. It sounds even better if I'm playing the actual forks myself. Hopefully it sounded all right coming through here. I have no idea. It's very loud for me, but it's fun. Okay, you guys should be able to talk now.
Brianna says her cat is sniffing the phone and meowing at it now that I took it away from him.
Like, what is it? It's cool, man.
How did you do that? Did you record that previously and then just played it back on your phone?
I recorded it, and I have a soundboard. You see these glowing buttons next to me? So I assigned solfeggio tones to my soundboard. So at the press of a button, you know how Juan has got, Juan on One podcast has got the like, God damn, and the FBI open up and all that. His
old
Illuminati
radio
confirmed soundboard. My soundboard is solfeggio. Just saying. But it's not as easy to work in. You got to be ready for it.
You hit like a subliminally ancient pentatonic-y thing just now. Is pretty cool. Like E flat, B flat, D flat, A flat sort of found their way along a wheel of sorts. It kind of like, and then at the end with the last two that were kind of hanging out, that sounded just like the sound you would get from a phone if you called a dead number. Oh no, if you had a bad tone, that sounded like the old, when you pick up your phone, you had no signal. That was the tone you heard, like a major second kind of vibrating. Very, very interesting, man. Very cool.
You guys want to hear the sonic slider since we're doing this?
Oh yeah.
It's 93.96. It's Eileen's weighted tuning fork, which you normally can't really hear. You just use it on the body. Okay, I'm going to play it. Let me just get it switched. I have to keep switching which mic setting. Here we go. That one's real good. Super low.
I can hardly hear anything.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I don't know what to tell you.
That's what it sounds like when you put it, right on your stern number.
Yeah, you feel that sound resonate through your whole body. Get yourself a sonic slider, people.
Yeah. Absolutely worth having around.
Okay, so anyway, I think we're gonna wrap up. Kyle, do you have closing thoughts on the subject matter?
Gosh,
I know we kind of gotten away from it.
Yeah, just I don't know. I just think I'm just so enchanted lately with rituals as they're coming new to me from a fresh perspective. And so for those maybe out there that don't have kids or something like that, I think that's a really good source of inspiration, is just watching what that is so close to nature is doing and just starting to mimic that in a fun, playful way. I really think it's extremely important to me and my airy body type to have something like ritual to ground me, but also knowing myself, I need to be able to let go of my ego and seriousness that I like to hold some here sometimes, and just be silly and a silly goose. And so, yeah, I guess that's the thing. That's the thing that I really try to bring to my rituals is that, and become more aware of that, and just chewing my food in a fun way, praying with a different prayer every meal, smudging in a different direction. I was also just thinking about smudging in general, and how the other day I was smudging with there was something that came in. I had an interaction with somebody that was just really negative in my opinion, and I started smudging the shop, and I was like, and then I realized, no, I'm smudging myself. I was just like, there was something about the moment of the smoke burning that would dissolve the ego state. It like brings it, like it's like conjuring the dark night of the soul. And when you're in that dark night of the soul, then everything outside of it is so bright and clear again. And so anyway, I guess my perspective is just finding some new ways to new tricks for the old dog, And I also want to say thanks for inviting me to come on and comment. I had a really good time hanging out with y'all, and it's really nice to meet you, George, and it's always nice to chat with you guys too. So
same here, my friend. It was great.
Yeah, man.
Kyle will be back next week for our Astro Herbs series. As I like to do, I actually made a big Tippecanoe Herbs purchase during the Vibrant.
Beautiful.
Got a lot of good stuff, but on the list for me this time that was new that I'm excited to try is the Memory Lane, like Memory Time. I have no problem with memory, but I'm actually great with memory, but I was hoping that this tonic, this tincture, could actually take me to superhuman levels of memory recall and retention. So I'm going to try that. Got more calamus. Really love the calamus upgrades that come from chewing on that. Super powerful for the voice. So if you guys out there, go to Tippecanoe Herbs. It's linked in the show notes. TIPPECANOE herbs.com. Whatever you buy can get a 10% discount with the InnerVerse as the coupon code. Just InnerVerse, one word, all lowercase. Super recommend you try some stuff out. It's all really reasonably priced and wildcrafted or organic wherever possible. It's just really high quality stuff. You're supporting Kyle and his family, and just can't recommend that medicine enough at all. It's so good.
So I want to tell a story before we go.
Sounds good.
And it's funny, I'm now realizing, because we're talking about ritual, like we're being hyper deliberate about ritual right now. We're really getting into the nitty gritty, and it's beautiful. Yes.
Oh yeah, man.
So back when I was catching wind of the nostalgia spell, I'm still waiting for Chris, King of Cups, to release our show on the nostalgia spell. Chris, if you're listening. But when I got wind of the nostalgia spell, this recoiling from the new normal. Normal is just ritual. Right? Normal is just ritual. This is the new right. These are the new rights, So this recoil, this natural recoil, draws us back in this infantilization dynamic of wanting the old normal again. well, I allowed myself a guilty pleasure. I went back to a ritual from my old normal. And I love it. I'm so proud of myself for reaching back to something that gives me my old normal back. It's literally in my hands. And it's Pandora's box. I have a tactile fetish for flipping my zip. And I absolutely can't get enough flipping my zip. This is Pandora's box. Pandora's box was a mechanistic device made to spring into life very easily. And so this gives me a little piece of my own history. You know, this becomes a placenta for me to go to bring thoughts out and to trap them again, and to just keep my own gears turning, you know, to spin my own wheels as I fucking please. And that is just a fun little realization I'm having as we speak of the ritual. I'm realizing I do something that is OCD. And I love it. I can't get enough of it. But it's really beautiful now that I'm studying Pandora's box, which is the Hydra constellation, which is the Crator constellation, which is passing by right now in the calendar. We're going right through Virgo. We're going right through Hydra. And I'm learning all kinds of things about it. But I just think it's really fun in the context of this conversation that I do way more ritual than I even realize. I don't even have time to complain about the system giving me rituals that don't work. I've got something that works really well right here. So maybe that would be good advice for anybody else out there who's like, I want a piece of the old normal. You know, go find whatever little strange fetish you might have had when you were young and entertain it for a while. You might need it.
Yo-yos.
Yeah.
Walk the dog.
That's right. You know, give yourself, maybe quell your Marcus Aurelius, allow a childlike fixation to come through, but keep it in a controlled setting. Keep a safe space for it. Keep it appropriate. And so maybe that helps with the OCD questions. You know, somebody might want to get into Zippo dancing.
Gabriel also has a ritual of walking his dog and sending me his crazy thoughts and whatever is going through his head that day.
Crazy thoughts. You want me to share that one? The Tavistock? Tavistock is a stove tick. Stove tick is gaslighting. Tavistock is the grand boo-foo of gaslighting. And what sounds like a stove tick sounds like a stove tick. And so all of the tabacus rituals of our elders were fueled by this sound, this auditory ritual of imbibing in a smoke. Yo, man, you got a smoke? You got a camel? You got camels? No, I'm menthols. No, never mind. Yeah. You got a light? You got a light? Yeah, I got a light. So this sound is actually the sound of ritual from all of our ancestors. This sound, it does carry the weight of Tavistock, but I got those motherfuckers pinned down. I know the meaning of this sound on a deep, deep level. So praise the Lord.
Dude, lighters do go way back too. They're older than matches. You'd think that matches come first, but lighters predate matches by a long stretch as a technology.
And I got to point out, it's the Zippo, which is, I got a lot of Z's coming through in my life lately, and it's not sleep.
I think that this episode is a good opportunity to demonstrate a closing the ritual type of situation as we finish up here. What I like to do is, open sacred space at the beginning of a ritual. And so assuming we've already opened the sacred space and entered that to have this very synchronistic and fun conversation, now we are intentionally closing sacred space by acknowledging any of the energies that may have passed between us, between the audience to us and back and forth, that all people's energies return to their owner in a harmonized way without any need or concern of holding on to other people's energies or vibes. In the closing of sacred space, we also invite any stagnant life force to return to the earth for rejuvenation and restoration back to us at an appropriate moment. As of the time of me saying this, clapping my hands, we're letting go of any stagnant chi through our feet, through our tailbone, through our mind, to the womb of all creation that is able to bring that back to us in an unconditioned and pure way. And so we can experience closure in this moment and know there's nothing left undone or unsaid about this vibrant. We can move forward into what's next for us until we all gather again. Love you all very much. Thanks for being here, audience. You guys make it what it is. So much fun. And gentlemen, till next time.
Thank you so much. I'm honored.
Big love, everybody.
Cheers, y'all.